Thank you again for tuning into Z to Z. We are a franchise podcast for Z's by Z's. Before we begin, I would like to extend my apologies to my listeners for the delay in getting this particular episode completed and released. It turns out Z to Z has promoted me well, and I'm extremely humbled to be keeping busy as a result of this podcast. So thank you for the opportunity to serve and, of course, for your trust. So this week, my guest is Roberto Litwak. I'm humbled to have him on the show. Him and I share the same title as we're both franchise consultants. And I'm very honored to share the same stage with Roberto. So without delay, let's get started. Thank you again for joining Z2Z.com, Z2Z podcast. We are a franchise podcast, and I'm really excited to have our next guest on the show. We just met not too long ago, and we haven't yet met in person. I'm going to meet him in person in the next few weeks. So I'm actually excited for that. Roberto Litwak, how are you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, Louis. Thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you in your program.
Well, thank you very much for being and taking the time out. I know you're a busy guy, and I hope I didn't mess you up your last name, man.
Hey, listen, don't worry about it. I've been called much worse, so don't worry about it.
That's great. That's great. So I really am. It's been a pleasure, and just kind of background to our audience a little bit is, and we'll talk a little bit more on this a little bit more, but we both met through a mutual council, Latin Hispanic Council, that we're both in. We haven't met in person yet. And like I said earlier, we're planning on meeting at the International Franchise Association conference that's happening in Las Vegas. And I hope to meet him in person there and sit down with him, get to know him a little bit more and enjoy his company. So Roberto, again, welcome to Z to Z. And I appreciate the time again that you took to be on the show. And before we go on, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the company you work with, and what do you do?
Of course, certainly. Thank you. So I'm based out of Los Angeles. I'm a partner in a franchise consulting firm. Most of our work has to do with helping independent or individual businesses grow through the franchise model. So we help them understand kind of what their operations need to be, what their legal framework has to look like, and really take them through and grow them. Not only internally to be prepared to franchise, but also what are the changes that need to happen within the company and within the mind frame of the business owners to be able to grow through franchising. So it's a great experience. 1 week we're dealing with pawn shops, the other week we're dealing with restaurants, the other week we're dealing with. So it's a very dynamic, very, from my perspective, very exciting industry to be in.
Well, that sounds wonderful. That sounds great. It's a little bit around the realm that I work to. So I really appreciate the fact that we mutually enjoy the same thing in regards to our professional career. So that's wonderful. How long you been in franchising?
It's been 16 years now. So I've been, I had some technical background. Before that, I used to be a software developer. And then, through like most of us, experience, I fell into franchising almost kind of by happenstance, which was a great way of understanding kind of what the model is and how does it work. And I really felt so connected to it that I wanted to pursue a career in franchising. So I had the opportunity to partner up with my partner. We built a consulting firm, and 16 years later, here we are.
That's amazing, man. That's great. I know it's so exciting to really get into a niche because I came from the insurance world myself.
Okay.
And then from insurance, I went to franchising, and I jumped. Instead of just putting my toes into the franchising pool, I just jumped in head first and hope for the best. And, 20 plus odd years later, I'm still here doing the same thing. So I enjoy it mutually as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you had the same experience. To me, what was the most kind of incredible thing about franchising was the people. And how do you get to really get to know them, and they get to know you, of course, and you help them and they help you. I mean, just the relationships that get formed and grow through franchising are just incredible.
Right. And it's amazing that the different types of people at different levels of experience, within franchising, you have so many different great minds in franchising. You got people that are just new into franchising and you get to understand and what they're going through and all the great experiences that they're freshly, experiencing, and then you got these gurus of franchising that you can learn a lot from. And then you have those folks that want to get into franchising, that you and I talk to almost every day, and not only potential future franchise entrepreneurs, but then you have those business owners as well that are taking their mom and pop shop, store, or restaurant, whatever they've had for many years within the family, and then they decide to franchise it, right? And you have different levels of conversation with these folks, and the experiences is great. And that's what I like about it, to be honest with you, Roberto, is the talking to the diversity of people that we come across in franchising.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, each different business we talk to is a complete story, right? And there are, there's stories of hardship, and there's stories of just incredible, perseverance, and so it's incredibly uplifting to be able to discuss these topics with these people who are absolutely passionate about their business, and I mean, they would give the right hand for their business.
Yeah.
And you and I being in a position where we can go in and help them out and hear those stories, it's just an amazing experience. So just overall.
It is. And I was telling a client yesterday, and a business owner who wants to franchise his business, and really for me, it's a gift that people are allowing me to be part of the privilege of being and welcoming myself into their world and helping them reshape their world into something new and different. And that's a rarity. For me, it's a gift, right? I mean, that's how I look at it, that it's a privilege to be able to have somebody trust you that much. And I think we're a couple of lucky guys for that to happen.
Undoubtedly, I mean, you hit it right on the nail, right? It is a privilege, and I mean, I will say it doesn't come without struggles or hard work. It certainly has to happen. I mean, first of all, we have to earn the trust of the people we're helping,
right.
And then once we have that trust, they have to believe in the model and the system as well, right? One of the things it's very important as we go through the process is they need to understand that their role within the business is going to change, and it's going to change dramatically. It's not the same to sell. I'm going to grab an example, a sandwich. Then all of a sudden you're going to be selling shops that sell sandwiches, right? And it does require a change in what I like to call it a chip, a change in the chip of your brain, and how do you approach your business, and what new challenges that brings, and how do you still maintain your love and the passion for the initial business, but then you have to grow and move on and experience new things. So it's an amazing experience overall.
Yeah, it is. And having the CEO, the founder, to understand that is our job. One of the first things that we got to do, because it is so hard for them to transition their mind, that chip, like you said, and change it over to something that they become from a sandwich maker to now, like you said, a franchise organization that now happens to sell and make sandwiches. Their mindset has to switch, and like you were saying, but that process is hard. So how do you get the business owner? I mean, what kind of, I'm sure you've had many conversations, but give us an example of a situation without obviously disclosing names and brands or what have you, but of an example of one that was, I don't know, somewhat challenging, I guess, or just just an experience.
Right. No, absolutely. And it really has to do with, I'm going to start trusting the process, right? Because if you don't start there, I think it's going to be a much tougher path through to franchising. And one of the things that also need to happen is the business owner needs to realize and understand that the entire focus of the business now has to change. Well, before I knew, and again, taking the sandwich maker example, I knew personally how to make the sandwiches, and I had quote unquote my recipe for them. Now
Yeah.
I need to show that recipe to, hopefully many, 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 many more people.
Yeah.
And how do I transfer that knowledge so that, the sandwiches taste the same, they look the same, they provide the same experience to the customer. And it's not an easy task. So one of the big fancy words we like to use is standardization. And
Yeah.
we help the business owners understand that you need to make your business repeatable.
Right.
If that's something I can say, right? And,
Right.
and and how do we take what you've perfected in these so many years of being in business? How do we take that? How do we replicate that so that it's consistent throughout the franchise network?
Right.
So
Right.
getting that trust, once you have that trust and they understand that we need to make this a multiplication exercise, things start to fall into place.
Right.
I won't say that they don't go back to their old ways and they find refuge in going back and doing the sandwiches. That's what they love to do, and absolutely that's what got them to this place. But they need to give that step beyond that and look at the business at a much more, if I can use the word, global scale.
Right. Because I mean, we have to admit it. If they don't change, that mindset, it could cost them a lot. It could
Yes.
cost them a lot of time and money and energy, because now they're still staying focused on the status quo when they should be focused on what it is, and what that is franchising, becoming a franchisor. I've been in brands to where they've been in business for a long time and they bring me on board, to help them, scale their business or whatever they need me to do, and help them get to the next level. Come to find out, the mentality is still back 10 years ago, that they're still in the business of, to stay on the same subject, making sandwiches. They're still in that business, dealing with the recipes and which bread should they get and everything else. Well, that's fine. That's great, but it's not their core anymore. Their core now is
And
franchising.
correct. And so one of the phrases we like to use with new franchisors or emerging franchisors is, franchising is not something you can be half pregnant with.
Right.
Either you're all in or you're not, right? I mean, there's no in between.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as you were mentioning, right, what happens is if you're not wholly in the franchising spirit, what's going to end up happening is you're not going to be able to put focus neither on the call it old model of the business, and you're going to be able to not focus on doing the sandwiches. And you're not going to be focusing on franchising. You're going to be, in a sense, somewhere in limbo. And that could be the death, a death recipe. I was going to say, we were, in a sense, just talking about the business owner kind of needing to transition over from, model independent to model franchise. But in reality, it's not only the owner itself, but it's his entire team, right? And he's going to have to build a team of people that are going to have to help him in this transition. And eventually, there's nothing wrong if he finds the right people and puts the right people in place to go back and making the sandwiches, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But at least initially, which is kind of where we need the most focus and work to happen, he needs to be certainly part of this transition.
No, 100%. Equally, you and I talked about this on our pre-call, but equally, the transition from a mom and pop to a franchisor, that there's all that happens, and what that mind shift what we just talked about happens and needs to happen. But even when a franchisor now understands and have that mind shift, now they have to deal with the mind shift of an entrepreneur, somebody who came in as an executive, let's say he was an executive working 9 to 5 and having this beautiful job, this cush job. He gets, paid every 2 weeks, all the bennies in the world, and, the country club memberships and everything else that comes along with the perks and all that. To now he's an entrepreneur. Now he is in charge of his own destiny. Not that he wasn't before, but there was always that safety net. When you're an entrepreneur, you create that safety net. You create those perks yourself. And that in itself is a transition that needs to be understood by the franchisor.
Equally important, both transitions we're talking about, right? I mean, the independent business owner moving to a franchising structure and model, and what are the changes that need to happen. And it's important to understand that, as you move into franchising now from the position of I want to acquire a franchise, I'm an entrepreneur, I see franchising as a good opportunity. Franchising really provides us an accelerated way into entrepreneurship.
Correct.
It's really a way where we can actually leverage the experience, the work, a whole sort of positive things that the franchisor has already created. And we're able to jump on board and really speed up our way or path through entrepreneurship.
You have to work from a model. And that's where that mind shift starts to happen, is understanding what exactly franchising is all about, is working from a model that's been created. The widget's already there. You do not have to recreate the widget. It's already there for you. You just have to follow the model, and right, the rest will be your responsibility.
Insightful in what you just said, right? Which is, people sometimes don't truly understand what franchising means. And it's not that you're going to be able to do whatever, pardon the expression, whatever you want, when it comes to the franchise system. On the contrary, I mean, a true franchise will have very strict set of standards which you need to follow and you need to abide by. But you need to understand that those set of standards is what made the franchise successful in the first place. And right, if you just are somebody who does not like to follow guides, and you are, very creative, so to speak, in a business sense, and would like to try things new and all the time, and you'd like to kind of do your own thing, if I can say it that way, you're probably not on the right track if you're looking to a franchise. Yeah. And it's important to understand that needs that is a very important piece of the puzzle.
Well, yeah, following that model is the key, and being able to follow that model, and the reasons why you follow that model. And, I mean, we can get into so many branches of this topic in franchising, because, you can go back and say, hey, listen, the franchise, you can blame the franchisor all day long. Well, the franchisor didn't do X, Y, and Z for me. This is why I failed. Or this is why I'm failing, because they don't answer my calls, or they don't answer my questions the way I want them to, and what they forget is they lean a lot on the franchisor, which is fine, but the franchise is there to support them, not really to hand hold them, right? And I think that's where, again, the lines get crossed, and a lot of that is the franchisors sometimes start to do that. And there's always, and I, being in this business for a long time, Roberto, I've noticed that there's that tension between the franchisor and the franchisee, all in a lot of the brands there's always something. Now, the majority of them are doing, there's a lot of veteran franchisees that are doing wonderful. The franchisor cannot expect a franchisee to follow the model 100%. We cannot have that expectation as a franchisor, right? Having that expectation, you got to follow it 100%. Is it reasonable? I don't know. I guess it would depend on the brand, but does it happen? Hardly. Right.
And just absolutely. And I think we need to know that if there is those deviations that are going to happen to the system, the franchisor has a mechanism by which you can actually make those deviations, right? And right. I think we need to remember that at the end of the day, the franchisor and the franchise system is there to grow and build the brand. And anything
Right.
that happens kind of out of the path may affect the brand value and the way customers perceive the brand. So that's the reason why they have these lanes and roadblocks, not to go crazy and do things on your own. But
Yeah, and
but
that's
it's certainly important to understand that there's a path.
yes. Yeah, and there's a path. And when I was an FBC, a franchise business consultant for a while for a couple of brands, that is those mechanisms that are in place to keep those franchisees on track. When I was working with brand new franchisees, and what I mean fun is because they're very excited, right? I mean, they're so excited about getting into the business of whatever that is, of making sandwiches again, to stay consistent. A franchisor, like you said earlier, has to have recognized what that is and what it prevents all that from happening, and making sure that the franchisee is going to stay in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we can't forget that at the end of the day, we're all people, right? And we do things and think things different from one another.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that flexibility to understand that and find the ways to help those that are better at one thing than the other and vice versa, uh, then that's where we're into trouble, right? I mean, to me, from my personal perspective and experience, the best franchisors are the ones who understand how to provide support to their franchisees,
Yeah.
almost in an individual basis, right? And the FBCs, as you said, are an incredible piece of the puzzle for this part of what we're talking about, and they are the ones who have to understand, how Roberto's working and reacting, and what Roberto needs, and how can I help him better than Louis on the other side of the town, with a clean store versus Roberto the messy store, and that's, I mean, at the end of the day, and in a funny way, we're going full circle to it when we said that what we like the most about the industry is the people. We are people at the end, and we
Yeah.
need to understand that we each have different needs and ways of doing things, and again, in my personal perspective, those franchisors that recognize that are the ones that are going to be successful.
The franchisor's main responsibility is to make sure that we support them towards profitability. Support our franchisees towards
Mm-hmm.
profitability. Because if they're not profitable, then obviously the franchisor is not going to be profitable. But as you continue to grow and to have that sustainability, understanding the unit economics for each particular brand is important, and having your franchisees understand what those are and what that means for the future, for themselves and for the brand as a whole, because all the pieces come together. And that's what I love about franchising. There's so many pieces that come to this, but once they're all together, it really paints a beautiful picture of some really good success. And I've known currently now, and known in the past, great franchisees that have made a significant amount of impact within their community, is opening the doors to a diverse community out there. And I really appreciate the fact that's been happening a lot. It's been progressing, from over the years, into really giving the opportunity of other, like, for example, the Hispanic culture. Obviously, I'm Latino, and having that opportunity to get into franchising is a great opportunity for the community to really expand.
Franchising is in a way a great equalizer when it comes to kind of diversity, and there's a very focus on including, of being inclusive in franchising, and the reason is everybody can do it, right? I mean, you don't have to have a certain educational level, you don't have to have certain work experience, you don't have to have all of these things that the business will require of you and from you, will be in a sense transmitted to by the franchisor, for the most part. And I don't want to paint a broad brush, but for the most part, in having the opportunity to go into different communities, and I as a Latino can go in and be a part of X brand. And also me being the franchisor and the brand saying, hey, this is a lot of value here that I can tap into. And they are strong ties to the community. There are strong ties to the neighborhood. There are strong ties to the state, the city. So it's something magical that's going to happen here very short.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I can't wait to really have that expansion happen and that the word to get out to the different communities out there, because, and I say this all the time, Roberto, when I go back home and I'm in LA and I see all these, uh, Francis's beauty salon, or, Amigos furniture store, or, or La Casa Bonita restaurant or whatever. And I see all these hardworking, folks that in my community, that where I grew up and lived, that they've only had that one location. They've had that location for 15, 20 plus odd years. Maybe they're started by their families, and then there's the family, their kids took over, and then maybe the grandkids took over from there, and it's kind of evolves. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, man, if that business was to really understand the power of franchising, they can take that concept and take it to the rest of the community outside and really make a difference, not only for their brand and what they do as a family, but for other people wanting to get into that brand and expand themselves equally.
Yeah, and I think truly the only way of getting to that place is going to be through education, Louis. And
Exactly.
we need to have we need to have the vehicles and the methodology and the way of educating people in franchising. I mean, if you talk to people, again, pardon the expression, in the street about
Yeah.
franchising, they'll say,
Yeah.
it's these big corporations and it's these huge, giants, and it's the Subways and the McDonald's, and in reality, franchising is really about the local community, about
Exactly.
the small business that it's going to grow, that it's going to. And yes, I mean those huge and humongous and iconic brands are the result of a lot of work, a lot of expansion, a lot of all that stuff. But they all started with the little shop here and there, and sometimes that message gets muddled. I will put my finger on education, and we need to do a better job of educating business owners about what franchising is truly about.
Yeah, and I think it does help. It does help a community grow and bring in more people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, from both sides of the equation, right? From the franchisor perspective, it actually puts out opportunities for people there to be their own business owners and entrepreneurs, and make a living, all that stuff. So it's definitely from both sides of the equation. I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah. So no, I love talking about this stuff, and there's so many areas of franchising that we can talk about and spend hours on and hours on. And but I know that we're pressed on time. It's already close to 1:30 now, and I think that you hit. If there's anything that we need to educate more of our communities. I think that's one thing. The other thing is, on the franchisor side, is having that mind shift of going from selling the sandwiches to now selling units, selling brands, and what does that entail and how does that work? And then from an entrepreneur wanting to get into franchising is am I ready to franchise? Is this something franchising for me? And do I completely understand franchising, which ties in back to what I was saying is the educational part.
Yep.
And I think those would be the takeaways from this conversation. And Roberto, thanks for touching on all of those. And man, I mean, like I said, man, when I meet you, I'm going to give you a big hug, man, because this is a great conversation.
Likewise, Louis, I truly appreciate it. And as hopefully you can sense the passion I have for franchising. I certainly feel that from you as well. Can't wait to meet you in Vegas in a couple of weeks, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. To really, I hope we can do it again.
No, for sure. Anytime, man. You're always welcome to Z here, and we always welcome passionate people here. So Roberto, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being on the show. And it's always a pleasure to talk to passionate people about franchising, educating the communities that we serve, even communities outside that we're not involved in, but to make franchising something that is excitable, that is something that you can have passion for. And, really at the end of the day, that you can have a great, fantastic wealth building opportunity through franchising. And as always, you can take a look at Z2Z.com. All our episodes are on Z2ZEE.com for all our back episodes. And we are on Spotify and all of your podcast platforms. So check us out. Roberto, thanks again. Take care.